Well, good evening, everybody. How we doing? Anybody there? Okay. Ah, Kelly, Tom, Scott, Neil. Hey, okay. It's a pleasure to have you all with us tonight. Plenty of familiar names. Great to see you. Thank you for checking in. Let me set up a couple things here and then we can chit-chat a bit. We're doing well. Hope we're doing well. This might be a good one. There's just a chance. There's a chance this might be a good one. Well, I probably jinxed it, man. I said this was going to be a good one, and then I was playing with my laptop, couldn't get things to work. I'm feeling better now. How's our framing here? This, it's not windy tonight, but I wanted to kind of batten down the hatches up there and not have that thing bounce around. That's looking pretty good. I think if I'm in here, I got a bunch of show and tell, of course, so hope I don't, I'm gonna pick up the camera a few times, so that'll be an adventure. Streaming doing okay. I'm almost so confident now with the streaming, I'm not even asking anymore because it's been so good. As long as I'm close to the house, I think we're good. Thank you, David. We just can't paint over those frogs. The boys are gone, but the frogs remain. Streaming is good. Yeah, a couple more from you. Audio, video, synced up fine, no delay, no warbling. I think I noticed a couple quick warbles last night, but otherwise, we think we may have this streaming thing licked. I don't really want to use data unless I have to. Hey, there's a wildlife. Hey, Bijou. Hey, did you want to say hi to these guys tonight? We got time. You want to say hi to these guys? Yeah. Let's come over and say hi to these guys. You didn't even know about that watering can, did you? You took such a long nap. You took such a long nap. So some of these guys know who you are. Do you want to look right in there? Do you see yourself? Right up there. Do you see yourself? Yeah. Yeah, what's the difference between live chat and top chat? Does anybody know? Is it, I can't tell a difference. And I am, of course, hearing from people who say, I can't see the comments. I can't see the live comments. And if that's you, maybe somebody in the little room here can help you out. Top is not as good. Okay. I want to see live comments. I can't tell much of a difference. Oh, I'll not get all the comments, but... Oh, okay, that's right. I remember that now. Oh, are you bored? Did you want to... All right. What? There you go. There you go. There you go. Bijou. Bijou. Oh, Bijou. Bijou the cat. He's being strangled now. That's not it. Okay. All right. Tom selected by AI. Okay. Well, I guess I can do some reading on my own, but... Let's see, I had another question. What was it? Can't remember. I guess about data. Like, you know, we walked up to the overlook last night and I manually got off of the Wi-Fi. I'm not even sure I need to do that. It's just that the phone automatically just kind of say, okay, you're leaving the Wi-Fi that you use, so we'll just go to your data. So I wasn't sure if I had to manually get off the Wi-Fi, turn off the Wi-Fi basically. And then the other question is, I guess, if I do any more of those little excursions, I'll be using data, and I don't know how ridiculous that is cost-wise, but... Which reminds me, here's the plan. Going hiking tomorrow. Lovely wife and I, we enjoy doing our yard work, but after a while, enough is enough. Time to switch it up. And we've got places we hike where there really aren't any people, so don't shame me, please. So here's the next little bunch. You know, we're just kind of going, I mean, come on now. We're all just kind of doing this, right? We're all just kind of not sure what the timeline is here. So in this case, we'll just keep going a bunch at a time until something changes, hopefully for the better. So this is the next bunch. This is the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule we had last week. Sunday night tonight, I think, right? I heard some church bells actually about an hour ago. That was nice that they were just serenading town. Anyway, this is the plan for next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll try to remember to do this at the end as well. I'm trying not to post too much about this stuff, but I do want to let people know what's happening. I haven't even bothered to look at the analytics and all that, you know, how many people are joining us each night and are we growing, and it doesn't matter. We've got people on the other end for sure, and that's what matters. If it was 3 of you, it'd still be fun, but there's more than 3. This is always fun. Where are you viewing from tonight? We'll see if we have some new places. Roll call, please. Helps me actually know who I'm talking to here. Nebraska, Wisconsin, Sweden, Wenatchee, Mount Vernon. I'm reading what you can see, but I guess for the folks who can't see the comments. Oklahoma, Netherlands, Provo, Malaga, Graham, Everett, Tacoma. Lots of Washingtons here, but we've got California, New York, Utah. I'm picking the exotic ones now. Salt Lake City, Utah. Terrific. And people from that far away tuning into UK. Hello. Helena, Montana. Red Deer, Alberta. Marshalltown, Iowa. So you want to hear about these things called the Ellensburg Blue Agates. Good for you. Maybe you'll come. Maybe you'll come to our valley one day when things are normal. Smoky Mountains, terrific. Haven't seen my mom yet. Maybe she's forgotten about us tonight. or maybe I didn't see it already. She's been a loyal viewer from southern Wisconsin. I was supposed to visit her this past week, but it didn't happen. We were supposed to be in New Orleans tonight for spring break. That didn't happen. Oh, you're back. You're back. You want to say hi to these guys again? I really appreciate you checking in with us. We got 2 minutes according to my watch. Let me collect my thoughts and we'll get started. I can pick you up. I can pick you up. That's fine. You want me to pick you up? Yeah, I can pick you up. Yeah. Let's find a good one, guys. Oh, yeah, let's find a good one. Yeah. Can we find a good one for these guys? What were these? These were kind of long. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, you slept the whole afternoon. Okay, all right. You slept the whole afternoon, man. Oh, I'm wearing a fur coat suddenly. Seriously, man, we gotta brush you out, dog. Where was that sample that I had? This one. Oh, you're snooping up everything. I hope you stick around. Yeah, I hope you stick around. Well, hello there. Good evening from Ellensburg, Washington, USA. Thank you for joining us. Hope that you enjoy the next hour. We've been doing these live streams from my backyard here for a few nights. And tonight's topic is Ellensburg Blue Agates. Let's get right into it. We've got about 30 minutes of me and about 30 minutes of you and your questions, your live questions. You can see the comments scrolling by right now. And if you want to hang on to your questions until I'm ready, in about half an hour-ish, then I can go ahead and answer as many questions as humanly possible before we get to 7 o'clock Pacific time. But you're with us, you're ready to go, and so am I. We already have more than 200 people. Wonderful, outstanding, and I can see why. This is an exciting topic. Let's start with this. Let's imagine something together. It's you and your family. You're walking over this beautiful field. And it can be springtime. There's some desert flowers. There's some bunch grass. There's some sagebrush. I mean, it's a desert kind of a scene. And especially if you're a kid, your eyes are a little closer to the ground than the grown-ups. So you're scanning all this stuff out in front of you. Maybe you're doing some full sprints across that field, and then you wipe out, and then you pop back up, and then you keep going. And it's a big, broad, open field. And in amongst all the plants, there's some river rocks. There's some rocks that are kind of rounded, some stones. And as a kid, you probably want to pick up a few of those. Take a look, you know, run over to mom and dad, show them. Or if you're a grown-up, with some of your best friends, same thing. Looking down, looking at some loose rocks, picking up some stuff that looks interesting. If you're in the right part of this valley is called the Kittitas Valley. If you're in the right part of this valley, you might pick up something that looks just like a regular stone. And you come in, you go, okay, well, this is kind of cool. Now, I heard this was kind of an Ellensburg Blue Agate, and then you go, oh, ho, 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 hey, get over, Bijou, get over here. Get over here. Hey, I think I got one. I think this one's kind of bluish. Bijou actually came. Wow, that's impressive. Never mind. Just kidding. So the point is, that's the expertise you need to find Ellensburg Blue Agates here in this valley. 7 years old, 77 years old, no tools, no specific tricks, just the ability to look down and pick up stones, and occasionally you find something that's a blue agate. And these agates, depending on the quality of their blue color, are valuable. So it's like an Easter egg hunt, but you can actually make money if you find the right Easter eggs. That's a motivation for a lot of people. So tonight, we're in my backyard. We can't be out there doing this together. It wouldn't be a good use of our time anyway. You can't find these blue agates every 2 seconds to show you, unless you plant them, I guess. But I've got a bunch of blue agates here. A little show and tell. Before I take the camera and show you, this is an amateurish sketch of the valley. This is looking down, this is a map, looking down from heaven at Ellensburg, Washington, USA. My backyard is right in that black dot. South, north, east, west. The Columbia River and Vantage is over here. The Cascades and Snoqualmie Pass is over here. The blue agates are only in the northwestern corner of the valley. So if you go out on that beautiful field and you're south of Ellensburg, you're not going to find any blue agates. Or east, or southwest, whatever. Got to be up in the northwest corner only. That's where the loose guys are. They're literally lying on the ground. And each spring, there's a new batch that come to the surface. Freeze thaw. These things are coming up. It's like an unlimited supply. So you can keep going back to the same fields over and over and over again, year after year, and still find new stuff, even if you were sure you picked that area clean the previous year. Almost all of the land is private, I'm afraid. But there is at least one section of public land. I guess I'll say it. And if you email me, I'll email you the directions. I've been sending people out there for a while, and many have good luck, and I'd be happy to do that. It's public land. You should know about it if you want to get out there and do this on your own. But the blue agates were not formed in this valley. They're found in this valley. They were not formed in this valley. And so this is a geology session, and I want to talk about where the blue agates formed, if not in this valley, why they formed, what we know about how they formed, and of course, there's a few questions, many questions we don't have answers to yet. And you'll notice there's something here north of our valley that's actually the source of the blue agate. So we're going to get into that pretty much right now. But before we get into the academic discussion and we talk about Washington 49 million years ago, that's a date that's important to us tonight. Let's see if I can take you with me without turning off the live stream. That would be sad. I also want to keep you landscape because I've had problems with that. Goodbye. All right, now you're looking out the back of my phone. It's a beautiful evening. You can see we got some clouds, so I'm not fighting the sun, mercifully. And I got all sorts of stuff I want to show you. But I want to start, especially in the UK or Australia or God knows where, and you have never seen a blue agate before. So here are some blue agates just to do a little show and tell. So here's a nice piece. Almost all of these are gifts. It's a perk of teaching here and being a public person, and people are so generous that they want to pass along some of their great stuff. So these are what Ellensburg Blue Agates look like. Of course, something like this. Should I come in close? Am I going to lose I am going to lose the focus. What if I come in slowly? Whoa, what's going on? I could do better focus last night. There we go. So this has been in a rock tumbler, of course. Can you still hear me, by the way? Are we still doing okay? Please leave a comment if you can hear me. Uh-oh, no comments? Oh, great. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. There's a little delay there. So these have been in a rock tumbler. I'm not sure what's going on with the focus here tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And notice that we've got some varieties here. Here's a blue agate that then has kind of some, I'm really going to try to come close here. Actually, we need the bright sun right now. I wish it wasn't overcast right now, but still. Okay, you get the idea. There's different shades of blue. This is my wife's ring. She must have had a handsome person give this to her. If I ever find out who that was, I'll chase him down. Just kidding. Some earrings. Okay, so this is not just collecting blue stones, it's actually taking them to a jeweler and getting some work done, some jewelry or some faceted whatever, stuff that I don't know very much about. Oh, Maria, yes. That's okay, good. So we're going to get to this stuff in a second. While I've got you here, no, let's go back. So you're back, you're still in landscape. It's time to do some geology, some teaching. Hope you're up for it. We're going to go back to the blues. If you're only here for the blues and nothing else, we're going to do some chalkboard stuff. All right, that's my thing. I don't have the collecting gene. I know most people do. I don't have it. When people hear that I don't have just gobs and gobs of all these things in my, my bedroom or whatever, there's plenty. I got plenty at the geology building. I'm not a collector. Okay, let's get into this. Let's try to answer some basic questions. What's this about? This is where the blue agates formed. Why is it just right here, and why doesn't it continue over to Wenatchee? The answer is there's younger stuff that buried this important layer. Why not? Let's go for it. This is the Teanaway Basalt. It's a geologic formation called the Teanaway Basalt. Let's get into it. We need to know about the Teanaway Basalt. Cartoon time. Okay, so let's do this pretty quickly. This is a cross-section going from the north to the south. This is a side view. And if you were with us last night, we took a little hike and looked at Mount Stewart, which is north of Ellensburg. Ellensburg is here. My backyard is right here. Okay, so we're looking to the north. And if we get over to Mount Stewart, we've gone too far. But there's a very important layer called the Teanaway Basalt that erupted. It's a lava flow, basalt, that erupted 49 million years ago. And it erupted right here. In other words, the lava came to the surface right here in central Washington. And I have to do something with this whiteboard to make sense of this. You see what I've done now? The land used to be flat, and these are cracks where the lava came up through. We call them feeder dikes. We were talking about those last night with some younger lavas. Let's not get mixed up. This is 49 million years ago, way older than our river story last night. Okay, you with me? We've got Mount Stewart and other things that have happened already. We don't care. We've got these cracks magically opening up in central Washington, and this Hawaiian-like lava coming up and flooding the surface with lava. And look very carefully. In the upper part of that Teanaway Basalt, the cap rock, the rock that actually flooded central Washington 49 million years ago, there's blue agates forming in those openings. Now, that sounds nice and simple. We're not exactly sure that the blue agates are 49 million years old, but we are sure many of the vesicles or vugs or open places in the Teanaway Basalt have agate material, and some of those agates are a beautiful blue color. So there's question marks already. What's so special about this lava to have the blue agates? Why don't the blue agates form in all lavas? Why are they only forming in the Teanaway Basalt? Difficult to answer that. But our story is this. Now, more recently, these layers from this original horizontal position and vertical position are now to the way they are today. So we have this ridge north of Ellensburg. Some of you know this as Red Top. Some of you know this as the First Creek area where Teanaway Ridge is. There's other places as well. Parts of Easton Ridge are the Teanaway Basalt. But the point is, if we can get to that ridge with the Teanaway Basalt, we can get to where the blue agates actually formed. And they formed in the holes. So let's talk just quickly. Let's talk just quickly about holes and agates in general. Agates in general are cavity fillings. If you're a kid, I just said cavity and you think teeth, but let's not get into that. I shouldn't have said cavity. Agates fill holes in rock underground where we have hot fluids. So this looks like a river rock, but it's been cut by a saw and it's actually an agate. This looks like a river rock, but it's been cut by a rock saw and it's actually an agate. This looks like a river rock, but it's been cut by a rock saw and it's an agate. So some of these round stones, like we had last night, if you carefully break them open, they're actually not river rocks. They're holes that got filled with lava. I'm getting to this, I promise. So here's a close-up of the actual Teanaway Basalt. Boy, we got dark clouds now, so I don't know how the lighting is here. I probably should have brought in some other lighting. Whatever. So I would call this an ugly rock. I don't know about you. It's 49 million years old. It's the Teanaway Basalt. But if we look very carefully, there are a couple of places where the cavities, where the holes, where the gas bubbles have been filled with agate. One there, one there. Let's find another basalt lava that has gas bubbles or vesicles, but we don't have any agate inside. So this is a different lava, not the Teanaway. And you can see that lots of lava has open spots like this. And this one's a dud. There's no agates in it to look at. I can get pretty close here. The focus, I think, looks pretty good. And we're not seeing anything. The point is, if we're going to, you know what? I can do it. Back to the Teanaway Basalt. This one I personally collected a couple of years ago with Wes Angstrom. We'll talk about him in a second. And you can see some of the holes got filled. Pretty good there. I don't know why the focus isn't quite as sharp as it was last night. Whatever, I'm getting greedy now. Okay, so if you find agates, let's do this. So this is an agate. And it just looks like a rock that's been cut open and we can see all these layers inside, but it's an agate. What I'm trying to say is that an agate of this size and shape is really originally a hole of that size and shape. We fill the hole with quartz and then the surrounding rock crumbles away and we're left with the hole. So one more time, if you're a kid, what's an agate? To make an agate, you need to make holes first. Then you need to fill the holes with quartz. Then you got to be patient. You got to wait millions of years for all the lava rock to crumble away, and all those little things that were filled are freed from jail and allowed to kind of be out on their own. Okay, hope that worked. Next step in this discussion. Why did these cracks form? Why did this lava come up? What happened 49 million years ago to do this? I mean, we only have one Teanaway Basalt, and it's the one that has all the blue agates. See all the vesicles that are filled with the agates? Why did this happen? Why did these cracks form? Okay. I love plate tectonics. I want to use the chalkboard. I'm going to do it. 56 million years ago, not 49. 56 million years ago, there was a huge island offshore. What's the name of it? Correct. Silesia. That's a story for another day. That's a story for next week, actually. Okay? So, Silesia, huge island that formed, made out of basalt. 56 million years old. 56 million years ago, it's offshore. But by 51 million years ago, Silesia is approaching the edge of Washington and Oregon because the ocean floor was actually moving like a conveyor belt to the northeast. And notice this map. Am I that bad of a drawer? Don't answer that. Actually, the answer is yes. But Seattle and Portland are here 49 million years ago, and there is no, Seattle and Portland are here before 51 million years ago, and there is no Olympic Peninsula and the Coast Range of Oregon yet. But are you ahead of me? When we take Silesia and then finally have it kiss the edge of North America, we're going to add a bunch of land. And the addition of Silesia is going to make up the bedrock of much of the Olympic Peninsula and the Coast Range. The addition or accretion of Silesia happened 51 to 49 million years ago. And during that time, we've got Silesia from out here to actually smashed on to the leading edge of North America. Basically, much of the bedrock west of the Cascades is Silesia. Now, you're like, well, what has that got to do with our story? What does Silesia have to do with this? I mean, this is basalt, but this is not Silesia. Silesia is west of I-5. What's the answer? Do you know? Let me give you a more specific question. How are these cracks forming related to Silesia? The answer is, from the impact of Silesia, which was a major event, thousands, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of cracks formed not only in central Washington, but I now realize formed also in Idaho and Montana. In the entire Pacific Northwest, these cracks formed. And each crack, these are not faults, they're cracks, they're fissures. And each crack is where the crust got opened up. Each crack is like a pry-barred open piece of crust. And then the lava comes up the cracks. So I'm explaining why these cracks formed north of Ellensburg. They formed as a result of pushing and crashing in slow motion Silesia onto the edge. Now, you might be a smart person and say, well, why would the cracks be oriented like this? That doesn't make any sense. Didn't you really just say that each of these cracks, can you see that? Those are arrows going away from each other. Does that work? If we have a major, I'm going to draw big arrows now. If we have, getting in the way of myself. If Silesia adding is causing squeezing from the northeast and the southwest, which is what I'm telling you, why would you have cracks open up in this orientation? Quick story. I used to be a teenager. I don't look like it now, but I used to be a teenager. Okay? My job was to work in a self-service gas station. This is 1979. I'm sitting in a little air-conditioned booth, and there's all these self-service pumps. 1979. There's no credit cards. You're an old dude, an old lady, and you're trying to get to 10 on the nose, and you know your fingers aren't what they used to be. So suddenly it's 10:13, and you got to walk up to me and pay cash. The old men that I remember from Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin in 1979 had these. These are coin purses. And it's the best analogy I have to explain why these cracks formed in the orientation that they did. How does a coin purse work? I got coins in my coin purse. To open the coin purse, I have to squeeze. North, east, southwest, and I'm going to open the other two directions. Money from heaven, pennies from heaven. Okay? This is kind of like a health class now. I'm sorry. Entertaining myself now. Okay? So, we got it, I hope. All right? There is a connection between these dikes, we call them, between these cracks opening up and a regional tectonic story. But you're a blue agate lover, a blue agate hunter, a blue agate jeweler, and you say, get back to the agates. I don't want to talk anymore about this. Okay, that's fine. Good. So, that's the end of the story I have to say here. However, I have to get a blue marker. I haven't answered yet, have I? How is it possible to get the loose blue Easter eggs that the kids can go pick up off the ground in our valley? In other words, how did they get moved from where the blue agates formed to where the blue agates are now? I think I'm going to get wet. Quick. Last night, I tried to point out in the haze, we wouldn't be able to see it tonight, the Green Canyon Notch, which is a wind gap where our old river used to flow. It's a place where a river used to flow from up by Liberty, Washington, where the gold is and the blue agates are, into the valley. When the Green River Canyon had a river flowing through it, it was the river that was carrying broken pieces of Teanaway basalt and the hard jawbreakers that filled in the holes. Oh God, can we do two? Okay, you got the map view and the cross-section view. Can you picture a river coming away from the ridge and flowing down into the valley? And then on the map, that river is flowing through the Green Canyon Notch, and this is a big alluvial fan where river rocks have been coming through that Green Canyon Notch for a long time. Most of the rocks worthless, but some of the rocks valuable because it's the blue agate material coming away from the ridge. Okay. It's already 25 after 6 and I'm not done. Hang with me. I just gave you the old story. The story that exists on YouTube. There's an Ellensburg Blue Agate lecture that I gave in 2013, and for the most part it holds up. But I've met some people in the last couple of years that have really been helpful to me. And their basic message to me is, nice job on the lecture, I don't think you're right. Or they put it nicer than that, but they basically said, I think there's more to the story than what you're saying. And I'm like, oh, I'm always up for learning new things. I'm not embarrassed. I always like getting closer and closer to what actually happened. How can you help me learn that it's more than just the Teanaway basalts and the filling of the material? Yep, you're coming with me. 338 people, good Lord. So I met a gentleman by the name of Carl Carlson. And Carlson is retirement age now, but he's still working. and his father is in his late 80s or early 90s, and we have a person who has the best blue agates in the state. The best blue agates really in the whole Pacific Northwest. And Carl has not only been nice to come over to Ellensburg and visit with me, but he said, I want you to be able to teach as completely as you can about the blue agates, and I want to give you some of my best samples. Basically, Carl said, my best blue agates are not coming from the vesicles in the Teanaway Basalt. Instead, Carl said, my best Ellensburg Blue Agates are coming from veins in rhyolite, not vesicles in basalt. Both can be true, but from Carl's best claims, Carl Carlson, Tacoma, I want to show you what he has given me to use as teaching samples. I get a lot of people coming into my office. Is this a blue agate? Is this a blue agate? He said, look, let me give you some really great blue agates so you can just show them. You don't have to say a word. You can just show them the stuff. So Carl started giving me stuff like this. So here's the rock in raw form. And I want you to notice a couple of things. Do you see that his blue agate is being found in a vein instead of, instead of those holes? This is, let me just keep going. So the country rock, or in other words, the rock that is hosting the blue agates that Carl has, is not basalt, but this tan stuff is rhyolite, which is a much different kind of a lava. Now, the Teanaway Basalt and the Teanaway Rhyolite doesn't even show up on a map like this. It doesn't even show up on a map like this. Instead, this rhyolite is a mystery to me. I don't know the specific age of the rhyolite. We've got some new dates on some rhyolite in the area that's in the neighborhood of 44 million years. There's some other rhyolite ages in the Teanaway area that are 24, I'm shouting now because I'm excited, 24 million years. I don't understand why that rhyolite is there, number one, and number two, why a bunch of blue agate is being formed in the rhyolite and not the basalt. So, in addition, much of the rhyolite, here's a raw piece that hasn't been cut or polished. Much of the rhyolite is brecciated. It's broken pieces. Where was that good? I had a couple good samples showing that. I guess this. So it looks like at least some of the blues, maybe the best blues, are found in places where we have rhyolite that's been broken into pieces. And you can get a breccia. I thought I had a better piece. I don't have time to look for it. One way you can make brecciation like this, angular pieces, is to shatter the rock during earthquake, faulting. And I don't know as much about this, but apparently you can also get breccia from hot fluids cracking the rock and then sealing it with these hot fluids. And then the system is still hot, it still has volatiles, and so you crack again and then you fill the cracks again. But look at these are veins. These aren't those jawbreakers that we were looking at before. And so that's the main thing that Carl has been helping me realize, is that the blue agates are coming from this, there we go, there's some brecciated material. So this is a totally different story than what we said with the basalt, isn't it? Now, is it possible that the blue agate up in Red Top and the blue agate in this Teanaway Rhyolite is both high quality blue? It's possible, maybe probable. But there's more to the story than just filling holes in the basalt. Okay, Wes Angstrom that I mentioned. I'm going to go back to, here. So before we go back to my pretty face, there's also some agate material where you actually have this banding going on. There's Muffler Boy, can you hear that? And the question is, if the agate is found in place at an angle like this, does that mean that the agate formed originally horizontally like this, and then we can actually measure how many degrees away from horizontal the mountain ridge tilted? I don't know enough about agates to know if that is really true, that we can actually get an original horizontal before we start rotating. Bijou wants to learn more about blue agates. Okay, we're coming back up. You're going to look back at me here for a second. Sorry about that. And I want to finish. That's my struggling face. Sorry you had to see that. I want to finish with a couple more things. So Wes Angstrom is a retired Boeing engineer. He's one of many folks that I've learned to communicate with and has lots of good interest and time to work on things. So Wes has been taking some of Carl's samples that I just showed you, and he's been doing really high quality photography of the details. And I don't know what I'm looking at. Wes is talking about kind of a hoarfrost kind of a look to some of the blue. Now we're in the veins. We're in Carl's veins now instead of... I wash my hands every 30 minutes, Jim. Really interesting at a tiny, tiny scale. Oh, this is a photo for scale. And then Wes taking some photos. So we're to the last part of my presentation where there's some questions that are still being worked on, and that's exciting. And here's another one to show you a scale. And then we have really interesting photography. I don't know what magnification, sorry. We have these on display in our geology building. Okay, I got one last thing. I'm going to read you an email. So Angela Halfpenny works on the third floor of our building, and we have been blessed with a brand new building with brand new equipment, and the state taxpayers funded that building, and we're putting that instrumentation to great use. And Angela, what's her title? Murdoch Research Laboratory Manager. So she knows how to operate all these pieces of equipment. I barely know how to get in the lab and what's inside. But Angela saw that I was doing this, and she has been working, in other words, Carl Carlson from Tacoma, Wes Angstrom, a few other blue agate collectors have been bringing their samples to Angela, and she's been doing a bunch of detailed chemistry on the blues, and she has a research interest kind of using this relationship that I'm kind of the middleman between all these folks. So I'm going to read this to you. Angela sent this to me last night. Hey, Nick, what I've learned from measuring a variety of blue quartz stones from different locations is that the trace element signature is different based on where the quartz has grown. So Holly blue quartz from Oregon has a different chemical signature to Ellensburg blue quartz stones. Ellensburg blue stones are formed in veins that cross-cut the Teanaway Basalt. So that's Carl's story. Ellensburg blues show a varied trace element chemical signature, which I believe is to do with the distance of mineralization of the quartz away from the source of the fluid at depth. I believe there was one fluid source which became overpressurized and therefore managed to create joints/veins or reactivate pre-existing structures that the Ellensburg blue grew in. Once the fluid had been depleted from the reservoir, it did not fill up again, and the Ellensburg blue veins were a single pulse of fluid event. Now, Angela's only lived here a few years. These are kind of early observations and potential ideas that she's kind of rolling around, and she has experience working with agates from around the world. She has international experience. But these are all early ideas. I've got one more paragraph for you. I think the brecciated rhyolites are from where the fluid reservoir was, and the breccia is due to the energy involved when the fluid initially burst out of the reservoir, but have no field evidence to back this up. I need to speak with you and Andrew more about this. This is more based off of samples that I've seen. That's my simple summary. Hope it makes sense and is helpful for your live stream. So that's kind of where we are currently. I personally want to learn what I can about past work that's been done on the rhyolite, where that rhyolite is up there, possibly get some folks to work on the detailed ages and chemistry of the rhyolite, since that may be more of a smoking gun to the best blue quality than the basalts. And the final comment before we open it to your questions is, Carl Carlson says, I'm not so sure that Green Canyon Notch and the river story is the main story. I think my brecciated rhyolite is right there south of the Green Canyon Notch. So instead of traveling these blue agates from Liberty down through the notch and then spilling them out, he thinks possibly it's a much more local brecciated rhyolite story where you don't transport things very much at all. Okay, that was a little longer than the past lectures or live streams, but I had a lot I wanted to show you. If you're still a kid and you want to be with us, here's a quartz crystal. It's got nothing to do with tonight. It's not blue, is it? It's made out of quartz, just like the Ellensburg Blue Agates. But even a quartz crystal like this had to form in a big cavity or a big room underground. So that's the only connection with tonight. We don't have any blue quartz crystals here in Ellensburg. There are all these smaller things. Okay. Now, since there's so many questions about chemistry and physics of the blues, I'm going to be a little bit less helpful than past live streams. Sounds like a disclaimer. I guess it was. But I want to go ahead and try to answer as many of your questions as possible. And I'm going to scroll back a little bit until I start seeing some uppercase, which indicates the questions. Don't touch your face. Yeah, right. I smell bar soap. I'm going to wash my hands again right after I get done with this frickin' live stream. I haven't talked to a single person except my wife. You don't understand. Actually, you do understand. We're all doing the same thing. Don't shame me, though. Why is it blue? Well, there was a guy named Paul Hoskin here from New Zealand who was in the department just a few years. And his work, before he left, was more of a physics question than a chemistry question. He thought the blue was from why the sky is blue. And he found at very tiny levels these little spheres that would reflect and refract light to create the blue look. So his approach was not a chemical impurity story, but a physics question. And sometimes you do find something that you swear is blue out in the field, and you get it home and you wash it up and maybe even cut it, and it's like, oh, this is gray. It didn't hold its color. So Angela's angle, of course, is more of a trace chemistry, a trace element story. So I'm not sure how to weigh those different things. What mineral is the agate made? Oh, same question, basically. What's your email? I'm going to get him. nick@geology.cwu.edu. I have a website called nickzentner.com. I like steak and potatoes and vanilla pudding. That's appropriate. Super vanilla person. Hot fluid flowing through cracks, depositing layers of agate material. Like opals? Kind of. Yeah. I know so little about agate formation. Some swear, Bijou's leaving. I swear, some people say it has to be cold fluids, not hot fluids. We're going to talk about the Liberty gold next week, and the gold is tied to the Teanaway Basalt as well. And so it seems like we need hot fluids. I don't know how you can get away from that, but I guess you can. Again, I'm having scrolling problems like I did last night. 14-year-old Mariah. How do you know a river rock from an agate? What makes the quartz blue? So the blue is probably from chemistry inside of the quartz, like impurities, and also a little bit of how the light passes through the quartz, Mariah. And how do I know a river rock from an agate? That's why we have these hammers. We break them open. Sometimes it doesn't look like anything, and then you look inside and it's blue. Or if you're out on that field that I'm talking about, you're literally picking something up that doesn't look dark, it looks light, and sometimes you just turn it over and it looks blue, like turning over a little baby turtle. Little baby turtle. I'm really frustrated with my scrolling. I don't know why. What's the biggest blue agate ever found, Evelyn, age 7? I don't know, Evelyn. I have seen rocks the size of my head. That's a big head. Look at the size of my head. I've seen blue-ish agates that big, but I'm not sure they really are a quality blue color like you need. I think Carl Carlson's approach is wanting a certain test, a certain chemical test to help his business and be, scientifically proving that certain things are blue agates. What's the difference between obsidian and agates? Well, obsidian is a lava rock, so there's a lot of different kinds of elements and minerals inside of an obsidian. It's glass, but it's got a complex chemistry. These agates tonight, it's just quartz. There's just silicon and oxygen, and that's it. There's nothing else inside. There's other differences as well. What is the hot fluid? Water? You can think of it as water, but it's mineral-rich fluids. And I wish I could tell you more. Aspen, age 11. How do you tell for sure if the agate you find is an Ellensburg Blue Agate? That's a good question. The deeper the blue color, the more likely it's a blue agate. So you can see there's some different shades of blue with this guy. And that's why Carl was so helpful to me. He said, I want to give you these blue agates mainly so that you can see the quality of the blue. And you can just show people that it's the depth of blue that we need to be sure. But there is no kind of test, but maybe Angela will come up with one, but there is no test that we have right now to say you have a blue agate. It's more of a, Carl's got a couple other tricks, but it's not my thing. Did you choose the blue shirt for the blue agate discussion? Why, yes, I did. I have a stone I would like tested. Can you provide Miss Halfpenny's email? Casey, I'll have to check with her about that. I don't think she's set, I know she's not set up to just receive samples through the mail, and all of our buildings on campus are closed to the public for a while. Hopefully not too much longer. How common are agates in the Northwest outside of Ellensburg? There are plenty of other agate locations. I'm not a good guy to ask, however. There are rock clubs all across the Pacific Northwest. And when I gave that Ellensburg Blue Agate lecture, I was invited by all these rock clubs to give that talk to these, Kennewick and Wenatchee and Ellensburg and Seattle and Tacoma. And they all have their favorite places to go. So I'll bet you it's pretty easy. If you get online and start searching for agate localities, you'll find some good spots. Those rock clubs are very open clubs to whoever wants to join, including children. To me, there's no real difference between a geode and a thunder egg. I suppose there is some specific difference, but not to my point of view. I'm going to scroll back now because I'm still not sure Are agates related to... So we're getting hung up on words again, and if you're veteran of my stuff, I feel like the words get in the way. In this case, they probably don't, but I'm not as knowledgeable with this specific topic than I could be. So why do you do a live stream then if you don't know exactly what's going on? How does some part look smooth and some part look shattered? Well, if we go back, if you mean shattered, so here's, would you even pick this up if you saw this? I mean, it's been cut by a rock saw right here, but it takes some experience, almost like a fisherman or somebody else who just kind of has a knack and has an eye. So, you cut that open and you see this sort of thing. So to me, that looks shattered. Let me get another shattered one for you. I really like this one. To me, this is a small one, but to me, it's the best as far as showing the rhyolite nature and the real angular part of this. So I've already forgotten the question, I'm sorry, but many of these are smooth because they've been in a rock tumbler and they have been smoothed over by a machine. How do rhyolite and basalt differ? I can actually answer that one. Let me put my laptop down. So there's different kinds of lava flows all around the world. And these are the two lavas we've been talking about tonight. They could not be more different. So can you decide which one is basalt and which one is rhyolite? They're both lava. They both are lava magma that erupt out of a volcano. But this one is basalt, the dark one, because it's made out of dark minerals. And if you joined us late, the old story I told about how blue agates form is saying go to the Teanaway Basalt, which has low amounts of silica in it, which is very fluid when it flows and comes out of a volcano. And if you go to Hawaii or Iceland or the Galapagos Islands, you'll see eruptions like this. But this is the newish, the kind of revised or the work in progress story. This is a part of the Teanaway Rhyolite. Look at how light colored it is. Look at how different it looks than our basalt. And this has been heavily altered. So there's rhyolite over by Wenatchee where there's a lot of gold deposits. So the gold is kind of loosely tied to these blue agates. And I didn't mention it back then, but I'll mention it now. If you were back with us for the first live stream lecture that I did last Tuesday, seems like 3 years ago, it was just less than a week ago, I was over there with the spotty reception. And I talked about the chalice magmas, where between 60 and 40 million years ago, and the Teanaway Formation fits into this, there's an incredible grab bag of different kinds of magmas: basalt, andesite, rhyolite, gabbro, diorite, granite, dacite, rhyodacite, tonalite, all these different kinds of igneous rocks that are all part of this chalice magma popping up all across from British Columbia all the way to the Dakotas. And so the Teanaway is part of that kind of hard to understand Teanaway story, and therefore we can get the runny and fluidest of all magmas, basalt, and the stiffest and stickiest and toothpasteiest lavas on planet Earth called rhyolite. We can have them erupting in the same area. Remember, I just said Teanaway basalt and Teanaway rhyolite somehow are from the same system. So there's work to be done on that. I appreciate all the questions. Where is the wind gap in relation to red top? So red top is a public place that many people drive to. So you pack a picnic lunch, you get on some Forest Service roads, you drive right to the top of Red Top. There's a fire lookout that's up there, and it's a war zone up there, man. People have been wailing on that Teanaway Basalt for a long, long time. Jackhammers, the whole thing. And they've been finding a lot of agates. Typically not the deep blue agates, but they're finding a lot of agates, and it's a good old-fashioned fun time. The Green River Canyon, which is that wind gap where the river used to flow, is here. So I'd put Red Top right over here. Easton Ridge, Red Top, Green Canyon Notch, and then we're kind of approaching Table Mountain, but Table Mountain is out of those lavas. Got time for just a few more. We're not taking a walk tonight. Sorry. Are there other colors of agate present in the same deposit? Not colored. These are all great. Thank you for the question. They're not all, so we go from kind of blue, which is the target, down to a pale blue, down to a gray, down to kind of a whitish, and that's it. There's no pinks or greens or other things in this deposit. How old is the rhyolite versus the Teanaway basalt? Yeah, I'm working on that. I think some of that has been mapped out. I haven't even been to a rhyolite outcrop up in that area. I've seen it on a few geologic maps, but I haven't even taken the time. This spring I was teaching Geology 351, where we'd go out every Thursday afternoon, and the plan was to take my 20 advanced geology majors up into the Teanaway area and follow through on that. But now it's an online class. How are we going to do a field class online? There are more challenges going on than my little conundrum. I'm scrolling back with just a few final questions. Is this related to the Liberty Gold or related at all? It has to be. The Ellensburg Blue Agates have to be related somehow to the Liberty Gold. But when we get to the Liberty Gold discussion, I'll give you a schedule here in just a second before we quit. It's difficult to date the agatization itself. It's difficult to date the gold itself. You can get some dates on the country rock, the Teanaway Basalt, the Teanaway Rhyolite, but to get the age of mineralization, I don't know much about, and I'm not sure it's a common approach. And if it is, I need to learn what has been done with these things. But from my point of view, and it's a question I've just started thinking about seriously, Wenatchee and Liberty are, as the crow flies, less than 20 miles away from each other. And they both have rhyolite, they both have gold, and the blue agates are more over here than over there, but there has to be a common story there, and I'm real motivated in the next few years to do what I can to kind of flesh that out. Really appreciate you being with us. We still have more than 300. I'm getting texts now from Maureen Rust. I can't even see my... Thank you, Maureen. I'm going to look for 2 more questions maybe that we haven't. I'm going to scroll all the way back. Hot fluid, did that. I really apologize if I haven't found your, back to people. Yeah. All right. Carbon dating doesn't work. It does not. Carbon dating is a way to get ages on things that are organic, and so usually dates that we use, dates that we get from carbon dating are just a few thousand years old. And we know that we're back in the window of tens of millions of years, for sure, for the agate, for the gold, for the Teanaway basalt, the rhyolite, and everything else. We do have age dating techniques to get ages for the lavas, but I'm saying the age of the minerals is different, probably different. That's a fundamental question, actually. Let's finish with that. Let's finish with that. We'll finish where we started. We'll even do a little sneak peek of the Liberty Gold thing next week. So 49 million years ago, we have a good date for the basalt. And we have a good date for when this was orange, liquidy lava coming up through the cracks. Now, okay, that's fine. Are we sure that the gold, which we'll learn next week, is found right next to these feeder dikes? Are we sure the gold formed at the same time that the lava was hot? And are we sure that the blue agates are filling the holes right when the system is working 49 million years ago? Or is it possible that everything cools off, the lava is hardened to basalt, the cracks are hardened into basalt feeder dikes, and is it possible that sometime later, how long you want to wait? 5 million years? 10 million years? We're now to 39 million years ago. 25 million years ago? Is it possible that it's many millions of years after the Teanaway Basalt that we heat the system up again? And we bring all these hot fluids into this picture, and that's when we start painting these holes shut with blue quartz. And that's when we bring the wire gold in that we'll talk about next week. I've done a fair amount of reading, done a fair amount of discussing with geologists about this area. Of course, when you get into mining, everybody's hush-hush and it's proprietary information and we don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But I've learned enough to know that we don't really know the age of that mineralization. It would be fun to have somebody figure that out. And from my point of view, plug it back into something like this. That's my favorite stuff, is to tell stories from the olden times. Before I lose you tonight, let me show you the schedule for next week. I feel like I want to just keep going with these. Things are not changing globally. They are, but we're not heading in the right direction. And so it looks like we're at this for a while. And I want to just keep going with these. So the schedule, I think, is 5 of these a week. 5 of these a week. So we did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday last week. Then we took Friday off. Then we went Saturday, and tonight is Sunday. We're taking Monday off. And if you want to come back next week, of course, you can watch these after the fact. This is the plan for next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'll stick with our time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. I've had plenty of requests to change the time. I'm sorry. This works best for me, and I think for many. If you're going to Facebook to try to find these, it's not Facebook Live. You need to go to be live. You have to go to my YouTube channel, and probably best to subscribe. It's free, and that means you can get notified when these are happening. Or if you just want to remember to come at 6 o'clock and go to YouTube channel. I don't know how you're finding these, but that's the best way to do it, is to subscribe to my YouTube channel and then get a notification to remind you that I've gone live and we're ready to go. You can get notified by a little bell on your phone or an email or both or whatever. But I want to revisit the German chocolate cake. Still got some left in the kitchen. And I want to ask about why those flood basalts actually happened. We've got a decent story there. Then I want to talk about petrified wood, a huge petrified forest, actually multiple petrified forests in central Washington, not Arizona, central Washington. And then we will, Thursday of this week, come back to the Teanaway Basalt, probably draw that picture again of our feeder dike, and share with you what I know about the Liberty Gold. Toast to you. Here's to you and your health. Here's to the health of your parents and your brothers and sisters and your children and your grandparents and your neighbors and your friends and everybody on planet Earth. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night. No, we won't. We'll see you Tuesday night. Flood basalts, exclamation point. Good night. I love you.